She's been a hobby writer for a number of years, primarily blogging and contributing to a number of self-published books, chapters to a number of self-published books, excuse me. However, her recent experiences of being a caregiver and losing a number of individuals who were very close to her in a short span of time resulted in a deepening of her writing and a strong desire to contribute to the growing conversation in our culture regarding good death and what it means to survive the loss of loved ones. She was a hospital-based therapist for many years with a degree in gerontological counseling, so her interest in sharing her experiences are driven both by her professional and personal perspectives. This Father's Day reading is particularly meaningful to her as it falls on the 2nd anniversary of her father's death. She is delighted to be able to share a bit of his inimitable nature with you on this auspicious day. Ladies and gentlemen, Laura Young.
I'm in the process of writing what is a memoir of my caregiving experiences, as Nick said. And what I'm going to read for you tonight are 3 different excerpts. These are scenes from my time with my father as he was waning. This first one is called 2 Pockets. Hey Dad, are you getting dressed every day? I emerged from his bedroom where I had been cleaning to face him on the couch. After I had stripped his bed, I proceeded to gather the clothes from my father's hamper, as was my routine, during my then twice-monthly visits. Even though 2 weeks had passed, I was surprised to find the hamper nearly empty, save for 2 pairs of sweatpants and a couple of shirts. Oh! I don't think I ever really thanked you for that robe you got me. My eyes narrowed as I prepared to launch into a maternal tirade as he elaborated, that thing is so warm, and it has got 2 pockets. It's just fantastic. I have a pocket for my remote, the other for Kleenex. Dad, are you telling me that you were just wearing your robe all the time now? Well, you don't think I'd be more comfortable in clothes, do you? Besides, who am I seeing? My father had this way of presenting me with an inarguable logic that was absolutely maddening. No, I don't think you'd be more comfortable in clothes. I conceded his point as I tried to come up with a reason that would convince him that getting dressed every day was still preferable. I knew there had to be one. Good. Ignoring my unspoken but, and satisfied that we were in agreement, he went on, you know, I look better than the Kings. You ever think about that? Flick a switch on my wall, I got light in this room anytime I wanted. With the turn of a dial, heat in my entire house. I have refrigeration for my food. With my remote control, I can turn on the television and see what's happening in China if I want to. The Kings never had it so good. You gotta remember, I grew up in a cold water flat back of the yards. My life is better than I ever thought it could be. And with that, he crawled into his heated waterbed. His 2 old dogs followed suit, settling in for their midday ragtag slumber party. I stood alongside, adjusting their blankets, taking in my father's logic and obvious gratitude for the quality of his life, trying to reconcile his words with my own assessment that things were falling apart for him. Breaking my reverie, he turned to me with the most serious look on his face, a look that was almost pleading. Let me ask you something. Do you think it's possible for a man to fall in love with a waterbed? I shook my head in defeat. You know, I don't know that, maybe. All I can tell you is that if I come here one day and you hand me a water balloon and tell me it's my new baby sister, I will lose it. He nodded and sighed. Okay. Rolling over on his good ear, he drifted off to sleep despite the blaring of the television with his dogs nestled by his side. This is beef noodle, hold the mayo. Hey, I'm thinking about lunch. What do you say to Chinese? Have you ever had beef noodle Shanghai style? My father's emphasis on Shanghai style told me he was preparing to introduce me to another of his favorite meals. The visit before, I had been treated to Salisbury steak at the Broadway Cafe. We had just left his doctor's office. Staring at the congealed gravy, I realized why my father's recommendation was met with something less than enthusiasm by his cardiologist. I had just come up from the basement where I had gathered his sheets from the dryer. I adjusted the laundry basket against my hip, smiling as his eyes gleamed. Beef noodle, huh? No, Dad, I don't think I ever have. Well, if you had, believe me, you would remember. You are in for a treat. We are having wing-wah. Awesome! I'll tell you what, let me just get the bedding done and straighten up the kitchen first, then we can head out about lunchtime. You feel like going out, or would it be better if I got it to go? Dad nodded his head, liking the way I was thinking. Good idea. Why don't you just pick it up? We can eat here. Gesturing to the baggy green army surplus jacket that he had taken to wearing even on summer's hottest days, he added, go grab a 20 from my wallet. Hey, be sure to get some egg rolls too. You never had egg rolls this good. I brought the food home and filled our plates. The beef noodles were Chinese comfort food, not unlike the Salisbury steak of the week before, and made tastier for me by the pleasure of seeing my father eat. Despite numerous medical tests, none of his physicians were able to explain his dramatic weight loss. As I watched my father grow thinner each week, all he could offer me were vague explanations. It's like my body just doesn't want to accept the food. Well, how do you mean, Dad? You feel nauseated? You having trouble swallowing? Well, it's like I think I might get nauseated if I eat, so then I don't eat and I'm fine. Okay, but what happens when you actually do take a bite of food? It's like my body just can't accept it. Are you having any pain? Oh yeah, when I get up. I get pain in my stomach, but then I sit down and it goes away after a few minutes. As long as I just sit down or lay in bed, it's like I got no problems. Yeah, I think I'm getting better. I just gotta use my mind to overcome it. But we don't even know what it is, Dad. Look, your doctor's concerned and so am I. I think you need to do what he says and go to Mayo or the Cleveland Clinic. That way you can have a team of physicians looking at you instead of all these disconnected specialists that you have here. Those teams specialize in looking for what other places can't find. That's what they're famous for. They take all those difficult cases that nobody else can figure out. I'm not going to Minnesota. I was just in the hospital for 2 weeks and all I did was lay there. Look, I can do that at home. They don't even have music there. Look, I'm away from my dogs in the yard. Besides, in order to find out what's wrong with me, they would have had to have found another guy with exactly the same thing, and they would have to figure out how to treat him, and what are the odds of that? And for what, maybe another year or two? I'm happy with the life I've had. I'm not afraid of dying. I can't see going to Mayo. Bugs, you've got to understand one thing. Doctors are basically mechanics, only they work on the human body. They don't know everything. Once again, my father presented me with a case that I could not argue against as much as I wanted to. He was right about doctors having the ability to diagnose because they've seen multiple people with the same conditions. He may or may not have been right about the low odds of being helped in his particular case, but conceptually he knew how the process worked. For a man who felt he had already gotten more out of life than he had expected to, and who appeared to be fully at ease with the natural cycles of life and death, there really wasn't any other point to be made. It sounded so simple. He took another bite, eyes gleaming. Hey, what'd I tell you? Best egg rolls you ever had, right? If you think I'm handing my father up, I've got witnesses. This is my last piece here. It's called Getting Better. My father stood on the rectangular platform, swimming in the now enormous robe with 2 pockets. as I slid the weight across the bar of the old-fashioned doctor's scale until the bubble on the level told me that we had reached the correct number. I knew he was well below his ideal 160, even with the bulky robe, but my eyes were not prepared for what I saw. It says 117. Dad, you are down to 117 pounds. My father pursed his lips, and he nodded his head, surprising me with what appeared to be a look of satisfaction. Dad, it's good. That's about where I want to be. It's what I weighed in high school. I could run like a demon then. I shook my head with eyes upturned toward heaven and blew a heavy exhalation through my lips. I was not going to let this slide. Okay, Dad, like that was about 60 years ago. Come on, seriously, this isn't good. You've lost too much weight. I don't think running like a demon is the goal here. I just want you to be able to walk through a grocery store. Okay, you're right. But your body can tell you things deep inside. I can feel I'm starting to get better. I simply stared at him, not knowing where to begin. He continued, Bugs, a body can feel when it's time to go. I'm not at that point. It's like my body's not in the mood. I'm listening, feeling my frustration rise as I try not to focus on his Howard Hughes-like finger and toenails. Trimming nails is the one task I can't bring myself to do for him. I'm not sure why. I make a mental note to add this request to the list for the next day's doctor's appointment and sigh, Dad, how can you say that? You're worse than ever. Look at the scale. You haven't showered in 3 weeks. When's the last time you even shaved? With his grizzled beard and wild shock of hair, he looked like a cross between a crazed elf and James Colburn. Well, I had to get to the bottom before I could go up. I gave up. I was in no mood for an argument I knew I would never win. Fine, but I hope you plan to shower before we go to the doctor tomorrow. My father stepped off the scale and shuffled to the kitchen table, shrugging. Let him suffer. I brought the coffee pot to the table and poured him a cup. Okay, but we're taking your car then. It took him a second to understand my point. Oh, I guess you're right, sorry. Seizing upon this rare moment in which he appeared to be agreeing with me, I rallied for the cause. Do you know that every time I have talked to you in the last several weeks, without exception, you have told me you were getting better? Well, yeah, but I was lying to you half the time. Before I could utter a word, he added, hey, what do you say to a game of rummy? Penny a point. I take all major credit cards. With that, he reached beyond the jumble of pill bottles, whose contents never seemed to diminish, for the cards on the table and began to shuffle the deck. Deftly cascading the cards through a perfectly arced bridge pattern, he added, as if to assure me that he had won this round, yeah, you know, my friends, they all got arthritis.